My wonderful new CN9 bulky Corona knitting machine arrived in beautiful condition. However, the needles were very floppy. The machine is on slanted clamps, it's supposed to be, and as I select the needles that I want to use, they don't stay selected. That makes it hard to cast on and it makes jams likely. Now this is how it's knitting. The difference is having a correctly sized movement dampener in this channel. The one that keeps the needles from being too bouncy runs right along under there. There will be other views coming. It took me 3 tries to get this right. I used mock I-cord for all tries because that has worked very well for me with many machines. It's the sizing that had to be adjusted. The pink cord is the size that I use in my CH1500, so I thought they would be similar. Not so, way too skinny. Here you can see the original strips. The top one controls the movement of the movable gate pegs, otherwise known as sinkers, and I'm pulling on the one that originally controlled the needles. You can see why it's not controlling them well now. It's coming apart as I pull it out. Here's the action at the other end. Jack is helping to feed it to make sure it stays in the channel as I pull through my first attempt at a suitably sized strip of knitting. Although the sponge was in dreadful shape, the fabric that it was originally stuck to was in good enough condition that I did succeed in sewing my new I-cord to the fabric and letting the fabric be used as a tool to draw it through. That was not a possibility on my CH1500, and in the movie about that one, you can see all the things that we tried and finally succeed in getting a new strip through. Obviously, you have to get the deteriorated sponge that's falling into the machine back out. It's gummy, and it'll gum up the works. A combination of vacuuming, hand-picking with a dental tool, and the fact that we had previously sprayed down the inside with silicone so that things didn't stick to it as readily did the trick. Also, to a degree, pulling the strip through cleans the channel as you go, but not reliably enough. More cleaning was necessary. I sewed the yarn tail through the original fabric strip back and forth as flat as I could and did not tie a knot. I do think that was partly responsible for it getting through safely. So that cord went in pretty easily, but it did not work. Next, I tried the turquoise cord, which is, for your information, a light worsted weight yarn, 6 stitches of it. It also left the needles flopping. It appeared to work. I knitted a whole hat, but that project compacted it enough that it had lost all springiness by the next day, and my needles kept sliding out of position again. However, it was effective enough that I was able to cast on manually with the double E wrap and knit myself the I-cord that I eventually used. I mentioned that I make mock I-cord, by which I simply mean a stockinette strip that rolls itself into a tube. And I decided to use a known quantity here, Red Heart Super Saver yarn that everyone can get. It is by no means my favorite yarn, but you know what it is? Durable. When using I-cord as a movement restrictor, I like to knit enough that there's some to hang out both ends, because as you pull it through, it's likely to stretch, and then when it resumes its natural shape, if it draws back, you definitely don't need it pulling itself out of the channel. So here I was checking the length and then knitting a few more rows. Working decreases here on both sides, and I'm going to do it a couple of times and so that we have a tapered end. Then leave a long, sturdy yarn tail so that I can have that taper, the end leading into the machine channel. It's getting tougher and tougher as the cords get thicker to put them through, and I thought and do think still that making the taper made quite a difference in getting it through successfully. So that's knit a row, decrease on each side, knit a row, decrease on each side, and so forth until there are only 2 or 3 stitches and you can pull the yarn tail through the last of them. We could not get the second cord to pull the third cord through. It was too thick. So instead we pulled through a double strand of very strong cord, stitched it through the now somewhat frayed from effort tapered end that I have created on the hopeful replacement I-cord. Knotted it together and tried that. Here, Jack is instructing me how to put 2 half hitches in it, which is what he thinks will hold. You need good light for this because it's necessary to lean down and peer underneath to make sure that the I-cord is actually going in the channel. It can jump out and then you really haven't done anything. So my hand is attempting to restrict its ability to jump out by closing the gap. What we found is if it goes in correctly at the beginning, it tends to pull straight through. But the person on the receiving end pulling the string also has to mind that they are pulling straight out of the channel. They can also derail the progress. We seem to be all the way through, and it doesn't seem to be a problem to coil up any excess length in the end of the machine. Very likely the movement dampener for the sinkers needs changing too, and we have a separate movie on that. And now the ends just need to go back on. That's in the movie on disassembling the machine, taking it out of its case. The white coating you see here is a heavy-duty silicone spray that is supposed to be safe for knitting machines. I've been trying it out because one of our favorite LPS products is becoming difficult to find. You'll be seeing me use it from time to time, and I will report fully on it when I'm absolutely confident. I do think that it helped get that cord through. But if you decide to try some such thing, please make sure that every single ingredient in the spray, including propellants, etc., is safe for all the materials in a knitting machine. The machine is now knitting so well that I made a hat pattern knitting video to celebrate. You will see that soon. The pattern may be knitted on any bulky, but I'm having a ball knitting it on this one, and I'll show you how to use it top down or bottom up.